In the beginning of Windbreaker, Moy walks in his own thoughts, troubled by bad memories. These memories are about how he was rejected and treated badly at school for being himself. He didn't have anyone to care for him, and people didn't like how he looked. And this made him very sad and lonely. When he wakes up from his bad dream, he feels very angry because of how lonely he feels. But the boy, feeling rejected by society, thinks that only strong people matter to him, not the weak ones. Meanwhile, in a quiet street nearby, a group of boys surround a girl and threaten to break the chicken nuts she's just bought if she doesn't do what they say. Initially, she refuses because she doesn't want to waste food. But the leader of the mean kids makes fun of her for pretending to be strong, and he holds her wrists so she can't leave. Not long after, the boy comes across the group that's bothering the girl. He steps in and asks them to stop. But the tallest boy doesn't like his interference and tries to punch him. However, the young man with his strange eyes shows his disgust for bullies like them and swiftly defeats the whole gang. Not satisfied with just beating them, he grabs the leader by the collar and warns him never to forget his name, Haruka Sakura from Furin High School. With the problem solved, Sakura walks away as if nothing happened. But the girl he saved follows him and thanks him for his help. Strangely, Sakura takes a moment to realize she's talking to him. He then tried to clear out the misunderstanding, saying that saving her wasn't his intention. Confused, the girl asks whether he was hungry, but he refuses the offer. However, in the next scene, Sakura ends up at the diner where the girl works. And as they talk, she learns that he's from out of town. She then remarks that it's unusual for people to move to this city, because it had a reputation for constant gang fights and organized crime, making it an undesirable place to live. She then introduces herself as Tachibana Kotoa. During their conversation, Sakura wonders why she's being so friendly with him, considering he's used to being feared by others, especially after the incident where he beat up 5 guys in front of her. Seeing that Sakura was lost in thought, Konoha suggested he try the omuris. Upon tasting the dish, Sakura was immediately enlightened, but was immediately disappointed upon knowing that they don't offer home delivery. As his irritation subsided, Konoha casually brought up his appearance, asking if he wore colored contacts or dyed his hair. This made Sakura frown, but Konoha shamelessly examined his unusual marble-like eye up close. Feeling uncomfortable, he then withdrew and challenged Konoha to a fight, as people often mocked his appearance. However, Konoha expressed admiration for Sakura's looks and recalled seeing a boy with similarly unique hair. Sakura emphasized that appearance didn't matter in a fight, which was why he joined Furin High School, where all the best fighters gathered. Konoha then explained the daily faction wars that were held in the school, regardless of occasions like Christmas or International Peace Day. But Sakura still aimed to rise to the top in this chaotic environment. She observed Sakura's dedication and his eagerness to start studying, despite classes not beginning until the next day. She also notices that he was outraged by the statement she gave about Furin High School's true nature. He persisted on challenging her to settle things outside, but their confrontation was interrupted by the friendly Mr. Yama, who thanked Konoha for the meal. Sakura, however, called out to the old man and handed over a package Mr. Yama had forgotten. Turns out, inside the package were some sweets Mr. Yama had bought for his grandson. Mr. Yama then thanked him and left. However, Sakura's past traumas made it difficult for him to comprehend why someone would be kind to a strange kid like him wearing a delinquent uniform. Konoha reflected on Sakura's experiences and determination, understanding why he chose Furin. However, she doubted his ability to reach the top and advised him to forget about it, as no one there would take him seriously anyway. She mentioned it was because he was all alone. This statement angered him even further. Sakura stated that he won't need to rely on anybody to become the top dog. But Konoha made it clear before he left that he would understand what she meant when he met the members of Furin. Meanwhile, chaos reigned on the streets as a gang wreaked havoc everywhere. The establishment owners desperately tried to call for help until Sakura appeared. He noticed that the guy from earlier had brought more friends to cause trouble, so Sakura tried to ignore the gang and cross the street. However, the leader reminded him that he hadn't forgotten the name Haruka Sakura, and the bullies joined forces to taunt him, dredging up the pain of his past rejections and denials. Faced with relentless mockery, Sakura had given up on being accepted and resolved to find value in himself. So when the gang leader threatened him, Sakura punched him in his face. Consumed by fury, Sakura lay drop-kicked the entire gang mercilessly, wondering what being at the top had to do with being alone. In his mind, there was only room for one at the top, and that was for him. As he beat up his enemies one by one, some of the remaining gang members started to run. Meanwhile, Konoha, innocent and unaware of the chaos, left the diner to see what was happening, but was taken hostage by the gang. The gangster holding her remembered one of the Furin's weaknesses were hostages, but Sakura was outraged by the man's use of a knife and swiftly took him down without hesitation. He advised the gang to fight cleanly, without the use of external tools and weapons. As the rest of the gang closed in on Sakura, he knew that protecting Kotoha amidst the chaos could turn dangerous. Yet he couldn't understand why he felt compelled to protect even when he gained nothing from it. Suddenly, one of his opponents picked up the knife from the ground and slashed Sakura's ankle, leaving him increasingly cornered by the enemies. Just as a gangster prepared to strike Sakura with a baseball bat, a Furin member intervened in the nick of time. He thanked Sakura for his assistance and urged Kotoha not to reveal her identity. He then swiftly incapacitated the attacker with his bat, and 3 more Furin members approached the commotion, urging the gang to avoid stirring up trouble in the city. The newly arrived Furin members were disappointed by the lack of numbers from the opposing gang. The enemies quickly recognized the feared fighter Haraji among them, but still felt confident in their ability to win. They pressed on, prompting Haraji to instruct Matsumoto, Kaji, and Yan to engage the enemy gang. In the midst of the brawl, Sakura found himself about to be struck by another opponent but was unable to react due to his injured ankle. Luckily, Haraji intervened, preventing the worst and advising Sakura to flee if he wasn't going to fight. Irritated, Sakura protested that the opponent was his, but Haraji made it clear that it would be impossible for him to protect everyone caught in the crossfire. As the surrounding residents gathered at windows and balconies, they cheered for the Furin members, but Sakura was utterly confused with what was happening. However, Kotoha recalled her earlier remark about the city being a haven for gangs and hooligans, which changed a few years ago due to the Furin High School. 2 years ago, the current Furin High School members placed a sign at the city entrance, warning that those who caused harm, destruction, or harbored ill intentions in the city would be met with destruction by the Furin. Initially known as Furin High School, the residents had renamed the group to honor these defenders of the city as Windbreakers. In light of this, Konoha finds Sakura's perspective amusing, initially thinking of them as a bunch of violent high schoolers. However, she acknowledges that they had that reputation until 2 years ago, but now they are beloved and even necessary because the city's public safety is truly lacking. This reality check hits Sakura, who sees with his own eyes that these guys, despite fighting in the streets and having unconventional appearances, are loved by the people. At this moment, some residents approach to praise Sakura too, having witnessed how he held out for himself alone at the beginning of the brawl. An elderly lady expresses concern about providing first aid to his injured ankle, which initially freaked him out due to his disbelief. However, Kotoha takes over the bandaging and reminds him that he is indeed alone, but not by his fault or intention. She emphasizes that the people of the city need people like him. Sakura then replies that he doesn't need anyone, but Kotoha questions why he returned Mr. Yama's gift or even protected her during the fight. The truth is that Sakura hasn't given up on others yet, and he doesn't want to. And to demonstrate the truth in this feeling, Kotoha asks Sakura to lift his head and look into the eyes of the people around, because only then can he become what he desires so much. Finally, Sakura accepts the pep talk, albeit in his own violent way, affirming that even he is capable of being a delinquent who plays the role of a superhero and acts as the city's shield. He delivers another kick to the opponent's leader, while wondering if he can finally establish some genuine connections. Sometime later, Sakura arrives at Tachibana's restaurant, fuming at having to carry old Grandma Sato on his back. He then tells her to get down, but Grandma Sato refuses, fearing that she might hurt her back. After some arguing, Grandma Sato quickly dismounts and does a superhero landing, which infuriates Sakura even more. She then thanks Sakura for his kind act, and the flustered Sakura decides to leave. However, Tachibana stops him from leaving and offers him some food, as today is his entrance ceremony. Although it's still early, she insists he must be excited to go to school. Sakura tries to deny it, but she understands, knowing there are many interesting characters at Furin. Just then, a kid named Mirei arrives, falling flat on his face. He tries to get Tachibana's opinion about his new uniform, but Sakura points out that he still has tags on his jacket. After Nirei manages to remove the tags, Tachibana informs Sakura that they'll be in the same grade. Nirei notices Sakura's unusual hair and eye, and Sakura braces for a potential problem. Turns out, Nirei is surprised by Sakura's white hair and deduces that Sakura must have it rough, always being so stressed out at his young age. Trying to understand why someone like Sakura came to their town, Nirei eagerly explains that Furin High is no ordinary school. Members of Furin stand up to protect the locals, defending the weak and crushing the wicked, making them heroes of justice. Everyone who comes to Furin admires them and wants to help protect the town as well. Nirei is one of them, but he wonders why someone with no ties to the town, like Sakura, came. Sakura makes his intentions clear, revealing he's there to claim the top spot. While protecting the town is noble, Sakura just wants to be the best among them. Nirei gets serious, cautioning Sakura against making promises he can't keep, jokingly citing fear of Sakura going bald. Irritated, Sakura demands they fight, but it's getting late. Nirei must leave for town patrol before the entrance ceremony, as he'll also be a hero of justice from today. As he exits clumsily, Tachibana remarks on his humor. While Sakura can't believe such a dork wants to be a hero of justice. Tachibana is surprised to hear Sakura talking about someone else's looks, but Sakura clarifies that he meant guys like Nirei are the type to always back out of fights, which to him is the lamest thing. Tachibana considers it as an assumption, but Sakura insists he's seen it happen far too many times, finding it sickening. Taking a moment to teach him something, Tachibana points out the difference in color between coffee fruit and the beans in jars. The lesson is that if one looks at things only from one perspective, they'll never see its true shape. She believes Sakura shouldn't be so quick to make assumptions and encourages him to get to know people better to figure out what they're really like. Sakura takes in this valuable lesson, but he interprets it as Tachibana secretly hinting that Nirei is actually a good fighter. Tachibana is disappointed in him and wonders if fighting's all he cares about. After he leaves, Sakura tries to ponder about the conversation he just had. Just then, he was stopped by some locals and was offered some free bread by the baker. Initially confused, the baker explains that Furin kids are always helping out the town, and he just wants to give back. They recognize Sakura as the one who stood up against the gang the day before and points out that everyone is talking about him. Overwhelmed by the praise, Sakura doesn't know how to handle it and quickly leaves. However, as he walked, the bakers came back and insisted on him taking the bread to eat later. As Sakura goes through town, he finds that several other people feel the same way. He can't figure out what's going on and wonders what is wrong with all the people in this town, as they're acting way too nice to a guy like him. Sakura then realizes that it was his assumption that they would treat him poorly. Just then, Sakura is shocked when a girl begs him for help. In an alley, Nirei gets beaten up for stopping a guy from bothering a girl. The guys mock him for thinking he could protect the town and declare that he's the one that needs protecting. Nirei tries to make them take it back, but he just gets pushed around. The guys are surprised when Nirei declares that those who cause pain or bring destruction to the town will be purged by the Windbreakers. They laugh, pointing out that only guys in superhero shows talk like that. The leader gets annoyed and tells him that it doesn't matter if Nirei is a Windbreaker, as he will be the one that will be purged. He prepares to attack him, but Sakura shows up just in time to help. Nirei is shocked and wonders why Sakura is saving him, but Sakura doesn't pay him any attention. The bullies laugh, assuming Sakura is there to save his buddy, but Sakura is insulted by that. He reveals that it's not true, and that he just hates weaklings who think they are strong. Sakura tells them that it makes him sick, so the bullies decide to show them what they can do. Nirei, on the other hand, fears for Sakura's safety, thinking that Sakura can't beat them on his own. However, to his surprise, the guys are all unconscious just seconds later as Sakura proves his strength. Nirei is surprised by how quickly Sakura handled the bullies and wonders just who Sakura is. Despite being terrified of him, Nirei still thanks Sakura for his help. Sakura, however, clarifies that he wasn't saving him, and that he was just taking care of business. He calls Nirei a typical poser and warns him to know his own limits. Nirei then shares that he used to get beaten up in middle school until he was saved by someone from Furin. This person, whom he'd normally be scared of, seemed really cool at that moment, inspiring Nirei to want to be just like him. He came to Furin with hope to become just as awesome as the guy he met, but now he realizes just how pathetic he is. Reflecting on his assumptions about Nirei, Sakura acknowledges that Nirei actually stood up for himself. He tells Nirei that although he's a weak fighter, he might not be as lame as he thinks. This shocked Nirei, and suddenly the girl whom he protected arrived to thank him for sticking up for her. She also thanks Sakura, who gets flustered and tries to leave, but is quickly stopped by Nirei. Pulling out his little book again, Nirei bombards Sakura with questions about his height, weight, blood type, and hobbies, eager to analyze every single corner of him. He takes notes on him, but Sakura stops him. Nirei explains that he likes gathering data on guys he finds great and cool. Flustered, Sakura tells him to do whatever he wants, which Nirei takes as an invitation to be Sakura's personal guide. Offering to show Sakura around and introduce him to the town and its people, Nirei admits he might not be any help in a fight, but is the best guide around. Sakura is surprised when Nirei declares that he will guide Sakura all the way to the top. Nirei then insists Sakura to get going, but Sakura is busy eating because he gets really hungry after fighting. The two eventually make it to school, and Sakura wonders if there will be a bunch of people like those guys he met before. Nirei finds the class roster and is delighted to find that he and Sakura are in the same class. He's then amazed by all the other names on the list. Even though he doesn't know them personally, he admires those people. Sakura doesn't think it matters who is in their class, but Nirei points out that they'll be spending a lot of time around these people. Just then, Nirei is shocked by one name in particular, and Sakura notices he's lost all of his initial energy. However, Nirei gets over it and tells Sakura to be friendly to everyone in class. Sakura thinks Nirei must be joking, but Nirei reminds him that members of Furin gathered together to protect the town, and since Sakura isn't from there, they'll ask Sakura why he came to Furin, so Nirei thinks it's important to show that Sakura is harmless and not Furin's enemy. Sakura, on the other hand, isn't even listening as he's busy warming up. Confused, Nirei wonders why, and he's shocked when Sakura says he's just getting ready for potential fights. Sakura then enters the class, and Nirei is horrified when it becomes pretty obvious that everyone is staring at him. The class is filled with tough-looking students, but Sakura couldn't ask for anything better. One student recognizes Sakura, and Sakura instantly has his guard up. Nirei tries to apologize for him, but instantly recognizes this student from his book. The kid then introduces himself as Leonardo DiCaprio. Somehow, Sakura falls for Suo's joke, and Nirei had no idea that this cold-looking dude could be such a jokester. Nirei reveals that his name is actually Suo, and Suo claims that his eye patch seals away an ancient Chinese spirit who might be your long-lost father in his right eye. Sakura loses his temper when he realizes that Suo is all talk, but gets serious as Suo tries to approach him. The moment becomes tense as Nirei fears that people from out of town really are treated as anomalies. However, Nirei is shocked when Suo simply pets Sakura on the back and compliments him for being the star of the main street brawl that happened the day before. The other students wonder what he's yapping about, so Suo explains that before Haraji arrived at the brawl, Sakura was the one protecting the town. Nirei didn't even know about this, and the other students begin to gather around Sakura. They recall rumors about an unknown student in their uniform, and they are glad that this person did a good job helping the town. It's pretty clear that they won't think of him as their enemy, so Nirei relaxes as the person he feared before should be okay with Sakura too. However, the guys still wonder why Sakura came to Furin in the first place, so Sakura reveals that he came for the top spot. They are all surprised, and immediately, Nirei tries to explain that Sakura isn't there to hold them down or beat them up, but Sakura then tells him that he actually wants to. Just then, a table gets tossed in their direction, and Sakura gets an excited look on his face. Nirei, however, begs him not to fight this guy as Kyotaro is the most dangerous guy in their class and might even be the most dangerous in the entire school. The aroused Sakura states that he likes fighting mad dogs like him, and Kyotaro says that he will crush him. Kyotaro throws a powerful punch, but Nirei is shocked when he realizes that Suo instantly moved him out of the way. As expected, Sakura dodges it as well and compliments Kyotaro as the type of people he expected to see in Furin. When the new kid faced off against the experienced one, everyone was left in shock. Suo then warns Sakura not to talk about wanting to be the best in front of Kyotaro. He's been known for his skills since elementary school, and he's super loyal to the top guy as if he worships him, and that it would be too risky to challenge him openly. Another student then told Suo to stop them before things got bad, but Suo seemed eager for a fight. However, Kyotaro whiffed his punches, leaving himself open for Sakura's kick to the chin. Sakura made fun of Kyotaro's blind loyalty, saying he's not worth losing to. Just as things were heating up, there was a weird interruption from the room's speakers. Everyone quickly stopped to listen to the voice congratulating them for joining the school. Initially, Sakura got annoyed at the timing of the interruption, but he soon realized that the voice was from a guy named Yumemiya Hajin from Furin. Yumemiya is Furin's top member and their representative. He then welcomed everyone, but soon forgot everything he had to say. After hearing this, Sakura got excited because he finally knew who he had to beat to be the best in Furin. Yumemiya's speech was a bit all over the place as he suggested everyone enjoy being young, maybe by going to the beach or something. Yumemiya thought that it would be fun if everyone went to the beach together to eat shaved ice. Nirei asked if he heard that right, and Kyotaro questioned what was wrong with shaved ice. However, Yumemiya acknowledged that not everyone might get along well enough to share shaved ice, but he hoped at least no one would fight on the first day of school. This immediately made Kyotaro wipe the blood from his mouth so as not to disappoint the boss. Finally, the representative emphasized that the most important thing was for Furin to protect the city, along with all its people, things, and feelings. Hearing this, all the students responded enthusiastically. Yumemiya then announced the speech was over, and that it was showtime. Sakura noticed that the Furin members had a sense of unity and belonging that he had never imagined. He wondered if it was solely because the leader was very good at fighting. But at that moment, Suo appeared between Sakura and Kyotaro, reminding them that this was the perfect moment for them to make up, suggesting a handshake. Sakura was furious, thinking that the fight will have a second round, also stating that it was Kyotaro who started hitting him. Nirei pointed out that his face was very red and received a big bump on his head. Suo then mentioned that someone aiming for the top should know when not to engage in conflict, while also questioning Kyotaro about how the boss would react knowing he hit a fellow student. Kiyotaro then quickly extended his hand to his opponent and Nirei begged his friend to do the same. Meanwhile, Sakura isn't good at these kinds of things, but it seemed that it must be done. Thinking that it was strange to touch someone other than in a fight, upon seeing them make up, Suo recalled the boss's words about enjoying their youth, which made the two angry. After the incident, several boys from the class hugged the newcomer and wanted to know how he managed to land a hit on Kiyotaro. While they debated about the fight, Sakura reflected that since arriving in this city, his human relationships were very different from his past interactions. This reflection silenced the young man, and when another classmate asked if he was okay, Sakura once again showed his lack of social skills, but at this moment he realized that the human body temperature was warmer than he thought. Sometime later, Takeshi called all the students to go outside and Sakura found himself painting a graffiti-covered wall, wondering what the heck he was doing there. Flashback to 30 minutes ago, Sakura complained that he had just arrived in the classroom. However, the supervisor didn't want to hear it and told everyone there to follow him to the courtyard. Checking his stopwatch, Hiraji saw that it took people 7 minutes, 48 seconds, and 26 milliseconds to leave the room and commented that kindergarten children are usually faster than them. Sakura paid attention to that guy and remembered he was the same one who appeared in yesterday's fight when he was saving Kotoha from the cafeteria. Suddenly, Hiraji went after Sakura and threw him to the ground, reminding him that he wasn't allowed to tell anyone that Kotoha was present in that place because if the boss found out she was in danger, it would be a lot of trouble. Finally, he gave Sakura one more chance to keep his mouth shut, otherwise Hiraji would end up vomiting blood from stress. He then took out a medicine to relieve stomach pressure for these kinds of situations. Sakura quickly backed away and Nirei asked what kind of guy Hiraji was. Sakura then told him that he's just a weird guy who takes stomach medicine. Nirei quickly noted this information in his notebook. Sakura asked what this crazy interest was, so Nirei explained that Tuma Hiraji was one of the 4 celestial kings of Furin. At the top of the hierarchy they have Umemiya, and then below him are the 4 celestial kings. Each of them is the captain of each group from each year. For example, Sakura and Nirei are in the Taman group because they are from class 1. Hiraji then tells everyone to make groups of 4 or 5 to patrol the city. Each group needs an older student to lead them. Sakura, however, wonders why he's in a group with Kiyotaro, and Sue tells him it's because the leader wants Sakura to keep an eye on both of them. Sakura tries to argue that it wasn't a real fight, but Hiraji doesn't care and separates them again. Sakura thinks it might be easier to find troublemakers and fight them instead of patrolling. But Hiraji explains that Furin's job is to defend this city, not start random fights. Sakura finds this boring, but Hiraji thinks Sakura's obsession with fighting is more annoying. Suddenly, Hiraji sees an old lady struggling to climb stairs and tells the team to help her. Fast forward a few minutes, they can be seen painting over some graffiti, which is also part of Furin's duties. As a reward, they each get a Japanese fish cake to enjoy. They soon resume their patrol session, and Hiraji reveals that he understands Sakura's love for fighting. But after some time, he now realizes that helping the community is more fulfilling. Their patrol then leads them to a tunnel used by the metro system, where Sakura notices a neighborhood on the other side of the tunnel, marked by a drawing of a dog he finds ugly. Nirei warns him to be careful because this marks the border between Furin's territory and another group's, where the other side are ruled by the Shishitoran, who believe in power above all. Suddenly, a boy in a middle school uniform appears with 3 others in orange coats. The Furin, however, can't cross into their territory. They only can hope that the boy can make it through. But when the rivals try to attack him, Sakura and Kiyotaro intervene, drop kicking them. Nirei thinks they're crazy for attacking first in enemy territory, but since the boy is one of theirs, Sakura and Kiyotaro argue that they're only defending themselves. As they handle the situation, another orange coat arrives, followed by Shishitoran's second-in-command, Jio Mama. He questions why Furin is there, noticing Hiraji too. However, his slow wave annoys Sakura, and when he asks about the knockout orange coat, tension starts to rise. The orange coat who woke up starts complaining to his boss about the enemies in their territory, but Joe shuts him up by hitting him on the head with a bottle and then beating him. He says only the strong can claim territory in Shishitoran, and this guy is too weak and deserves to die. Hiraji tries to intervene, reminding Joe they're on the same team, but Joe disagrees, saying the defeated guy is no longer part of their team and that Shishitoran doesn't need losers. Sue then remarks that these guys aren't very friendly and Sakura is tired of their twisted talk about power. He tries to confront Joe, calling the rival faction a nest of weaklings, raising the tension even higher. Joe asks if they've disappointed the young Furin, and the orange coats suggest killing Sakura, but Joe has another idea. He comments on Sakura's hair and tells him to stay put while he leaves, making it clear he remembers Sakura's face, or as he calls him, Reversi. After Joe left, Nire freaks out, fearing this confrontation will lead to war, and Sue regrets not interrupting sooner. On the other hand, Hiraji takes all of his stomach medicine and explains that Joe cares deeply about territory and Shishitoran, so this won't be forgotten easily. He then blames himself for not acting sooner and apologizes. Hiraji leads them back to school, and upon arrival, he knows he has to report everything to Yumemiya, which immediately upsets his stomach. Sakura wonders if talking to the boss is really that bad since he's seen friendly earlier. They then enter a rooftop decorated in a friendly manner, where the leader of the Furin is tending to his garden, proud of his eggplants and bell peppers. Suddenly, Gojo Satoru announces there will be a Furin barbecue this summer, which makes Sakura think he seems like he's from elementary school. Hiraji tries to tell Yumemiya that there's a big problem, but they're surprised when Yumemiya claims to already know. But it turns out Yumemiya was talking about not having enough plant seeds. Hiraji then tries to explain the trouble with Shishitoran, but Yumemiya focuses on planting his jalapenos instead. The guys quickly realize they're not talking about the same thing, but at least they figure out why Hiraji's stomach hurts. Sakura can't believe this guy is the boss, but Kotaro insists on respecting him. Yumemiya finally notices the other guys and proudly shows them his plants, while Hiraji is frustrated that Yumemiya isn't paying attention. Sakura then points out that all the plants look the same, which annoyed Kotaro, but Yumemiya tells him to look closer, telling him that each plant is unique. Sakura can't believe that this guy was the voice behind the announcement, confused on how his voice managed to grab everyone's attention easily. He wonders why everyone is drawn to Yumemiya. Sasaki, however, decides to speak up and explains that he chased a thief into Shishitoran territory and got in trouble, where Sakura and Kotaro helped him out. Sasaki felt bad for causing trouble and apologized. Surprisingly, Yumemiya knows Sasaki's name and thanks him for protecting the town. He tells him that he did nothing wrong and promises to handle the situation. Hiraji apologizes too, but Yumemiya tells them that he can't fix everything. Nure agrees and mentions that Sakura was the one who escalated the situation. This made Yumemiya question whether Sakura started a fight, but Sakura clarifies that Shishitoran started it first as they believed that strength was everything but picked on someone weaker. Everyone is amazed as Sakura bravely speaks up and explains everything. Sakura, on the other hand, worries about his punishment, but to his surprise, Yumemiya agrees with him. Yumemiya thinks Shishitoran's actions are becoming lame lately. He then told him that he's also heard about Sakura's actions on Main Street, combined with what he did today. Yumemiya thanks him for protecting their town, and the guys are shocked when Yumemiya calls Sakura a new reliable little brother, which Kotaro clearly doesn't like. This made Sakura finally understand why everyone is drawn to Yumemiya, as he makes them feel safe. Sakura, however, unsure how to respond, pulls his hand away, questioning who made Yumemiya his big brother. Turns out, Yumemiya considers everyone in town as family, so it's not a big deal to him. Just then, Hiraji receives a call from a guy named Kaji who can barely speak and only mentions Shishitoran. Soon after, the leader of Shishitoran, Choji, appears dragging Kaji behind him. Choji calls out to Yumemiya and demands a fight. As everyone heads outside, Sakura senses Yumemiya's frightening power. He starts preparing himself, making Sakura uneasy about the situation. Despite Sakura's desire to fight, Yumemiya orders everyone to stay back. Sakura, however, frustrated, insists on fighting, but Yumemiya's serious demeanor stops him in his tracks. Unable to move his legs, Sakura is taken aback by Yumemiya's transformation, wondering if this is truly the same person he saw earlier. Yumemiya confronts Choji about beating one of his members, but Choji remains unfazed, wearing a smile that unsettles everyone. They wonder just how intimidating Choji must be if Yumemiya is already on his guard. Choji, however, eagerly anticipates a one-on-one fight, claiming they started it and can't back down now. Yumemiya acknowledges their initial involvement but argues that Choji has already done significant damage by beating up several of his members, considering them even. As Choji looks around, Hirai is surprised by Yumemiya's acceptance of the situation. Yumemiya tells Choji to go away, but things get tense when Choji suddenly attacks him. Yumemiya easily blocks the attack and wonders why Choji is so eager to fight, but Choji explains that he's tired of being the top guy in Shishitoran, while Yumemiya seems to have all the fun as the top guy in Bofurin. He wants to scare Yumemiya a bit to make things fair. Yumemiya, however, senses there's more to Choji's story, but Choji doesn't get it. Just then, Choji's buddies show up, making the situation more intense. Seeing this, all the other guys decided to step up as well. Sakura then tells Yumemiya that they won't interfere in a one-on-one fight but can ignore an invasion. Choji, however, wishes everyone would leave so he can fight Yumemiya alone, and all his friends disagree. He points at the school where the tension can be seen as the students are visibly angry and prepared for combat. Niri starts to panic, realizing how quickly things could escalate, but Yumemiya steps in, urging everyone to stay calm. He agrees to face Choji alone on the condition that Choji's friends stand down. One of them, however, insults Yumiya for avoiding a fight, but Kotaro warns him to be careful with his words. Despite the provocations, another guy points out Kotaro's involvement in the incident at the bridge. Waso mocks the way this guy speaks, prompting Joe to intervene and calm everyone down. Surprisingly, Joe suggests postponing their duel until another time, explaining that the sun is setting, claiming that it'll be hard to appreciate the sight of someone's face being smashed in at night. Sakura then answers, implying that Joe's own face might be on the receiving end. Upon noticing the hostility between Joe and Sakura, Choji then proposes a different approach. He suggests a series of one-on-one fights instead of an all-out brawl, a proposition that Joe supports. They then decided on the matchups: Yumiya against Choji, Sakura against Joe, Kotaro against the blonde guy, and So against the quiet one. While Yumiya initially thinks his duel with Choji should suffice, Sakura and the others tell him otherwise. The newcomer's enthusiasm leaves Hiraji in disbelief, wondering what kind of kids Furin has this year. Suddenly, another Shishitoran member requests to join the fight, choosing Hiraji as his opponent, someone he knows as Sako. Hiraji, who's usually calm, is taken aback and apologizes to Yumiya, while deciding to join the fight. With the matchup set, they agree to put their teams on the line for the battle scheduled the next day. In the cafe, Niri starts to panic, but Sakura advises him to calm down. However, Niri blames himself for the situation. Takebana urges him to eat something and relax, but Niri can't shake off his anxiety. He fears over the consequences if Yumiya were to lose, which would mean Shishitoran taking over Furin, or worse, Furin ceasing to exist. Tachibana reminds Niri that stressing out won't change anything and reassures him that the Furin guys aren't weak. Sakura, on the other hand, wants to leave after hastily finishing his food, but is stopped by Niri, who reminds him to finish his veggies. Sakura then questions Yumiya and Hiraji, who hasn't arrived yet. Niri then explains that they were busy diffusing the tension among those ready for a fight. Sakura then wonders why they chose to meet at this cafe, and Tachibana explains that it's somewhat of a Bofurin tradition before a fight. Just then, Yumiya arrives and showers Tachibana with compliments, even showing her his plants. So explains that Yumiya is quite fond of Tachibana, sparking Sakura's curiosity about their relationship. However, everyone quickly dismisses Sakura's suggestion, calling him an idiot. Yumiya clarifies that Tachibana is actually his little sister, but Tachibana clarifies that they're not biologically related. She explained that they were raised in the same place, and Yumiya started calling her his sibling on his own. Tachibana is relieved when Sakura doesn't question it further, but Sakura is surprised to learn that she's only 16, the same age as him. He remarks on her maturity, assuming she's in her 20s, which is quickly greeted by Kotaro's hostility and Yumiya's discomfort, causing him to change the subject. Hiraji, on the other hand, who's been quiet, explains that Yumiya fiercely protects Tachibana and consequences would follow if she were ever in trouble. The scene then shifts to Hiraji spacing out and not finishing his food due to his thoughts on Shishitoran. Sakura wonders if things were different before, so Hiraji explains that they used to only believe in strength. They simply cared about strong fighters and had plenty of hotheads among them. However, they would never have gone after middle schoolers. However, since Choji took over, bad rumors have been spreading around. Hiraji has heard that Choji has been picking fights everywhere. Choji and Joe used to be symbols of strength who deeply cared for their team, but something has changed them, stating that they'll learn tomorrow. Yumiya explains that fights are like conversations, punches are a language that sometimes work better than words. However, he acknowledges that this might only be true for guys like them. As the night comes to an end, Sasaki thanks everyone for saving him and hopes they win the fight. Everyone accepts his apology, but Sakura points out that he isn't fighting for his sake. Tachibana calls him a dope and tells him to say something cool like, "Leave it to me," which reminds Sakura of how Yumiya said the same thing. The next day, the Bofurin guys arrive at the tunnel and enter Shishitoran territory. Sakura then reflects on how this is the first time he has ever fought for someone else. He isn't sure why, but for some reason he feels more unbeatable than ever. The episode then ends with Choji welcoming them to his territory, and Yumiya declares that they are ready. Choji then leads the Furin guys somewhere and they follow along. Along the way, Sakura notices that the entire place is filled with bars. Niri explains that it's known for getting lively at night, but also very dangerous. Sakura then questions why Niri is there since he isn't in a one-on-one fight. Niri, however, declares that he's there because he's a member of Bofurin, and even if he can't protect others like they can, he at least wants to be able to protect himself. He wishes to learn by watching and injuring Sakura, though So can tell that Sakura was secretly flattered. Hiraji, however, gets upset with their bickering and wishes they would act a bit more mature. Nervous about the upcoming fight, Nire is reassured by Yumemiya to relax and notes the promising potential of the new students. Choji leads them further into the area and Joe formally welcomes them to Orion, the Shishitoran's secret lair. Consulting his information book, Nire explains that Orion used to be a movie theater, but is now known as Ori, meaning cage. They soon enter the theater and are greeted by cheers from Shishitoran members as it's announced that the fighters are about to enter the arena. Nire understands the nickname now because this truly feels like a cage of wild beasts. Seeing this, he then starts to worry if they'll make it back home or even if they'll make it back alive. Sakura notices Nire's worries and reminds him that he's there to study. He then instructs Nire to keep his focus forward. Choji announces that it's time to begin and Yumemiya remarks on how he's turned the whole event into a spectacle. He tells his guys that despite the grandeur, the only fight that truly matters is his one-on-one with Choji. Their wins or losses won't count, so they should feel at ease. Sakura refuses to accept this and declares that whether it counts or not, he doesn't intend to lose. The others agree and Yumemiya is pleased by how reliable they are. Choji wants his fight against Yumemiya to be first, but they won't allow the captain to start the battle. The blonde guy, Arima, volunteers to go first, noting Kyotaro's zesty stare from the beginning. Everyone agrees and they head to the stage. Sakura, however, reminds Kyotaro that they still have unfinished business, noting that if he loses to their opponents, Sakura won't waste his time to fight him again. Kyotaro, as usual, remains silent and heads to the stage. Nire tries to find Arima in his little book, finding that he's known for being a heavy hitter, capable of breaking ribs with a single punch. So, however, reassures Nire that Kyotaro is on par with Arima. However, Yumemiya surprises them by stating that they're not even in the same league. On stage, Arima is annoyed by Kyotaro's stare and uses a dirty trick to distract him by pretending that something happened to Yumemiya. Taking advantage of Kyotaro's distraction, Arima lands a punch and calls him an idiot for looking away during a fight. Sakura observes that Kyotaro is simply building up his rage and confidently predicts that he'll dominate. Kyotaro indeed unleashes his fury and overwhelms Arima and reminds him to show respect when mentioning Yumemiya's name. He knocked out Arima cold, leaving Sakura disappointed by their weakness. The Shishitoran spectators are shocked by Arima's swift defeat and wonder about the identity of this long-haired beast. This concerns the Shishitoran guys as Kyotaro only needed one punch. Choji, however, is amused by Kyotaro's toughness. The Bafuran guys notice how focused Joe is and the eager Choji who wants to fight Kyotaro next, but Joe tells him to wait his turn. Nire is stunned by their reaction. Not only do they not care about their teammate who lost, but they're also complimenting the opponent, which made him become more certain that there is something wrong with these two. Yumemiya notes that Kyotaro has always been tough, so it's no surprise he wasn't fazed by a punch to the face. Nire is still shocked, but Sakura isn't because he's fought Kyotaro before. The others are relieved to see that Sakura finally accepts Kyotaro's strength, but Sakura is too embarrassed to admit it. While they argue, Choji for more fighting instructs a couple of his guys to clear the stage, and after they grow tired of dragging Arima, they decided to simply throw him off the stage onto the ground. They mock Arima for his weakness and kick his unconscious body, which horrifies Nire. He points out how horrible they are, but he's even more horrified when Sakura tells the two guys not to talk around him. He never wants to hear them talk about being devotees of power again, as it embarrasses him to hear losers like them speak. Suwa joins in, stating that kids like them won't understand until they're defeated. The guys become furious and wonder if they're looking for a fight. However, their anger turns to terror when Choji very seriously tells them to back away since they're not their opponents. Sakura eagerly wants to fight next, but Suwa declares that it's his turn to fight the quiet kid. Suwa points out that his opponent, Kamuma, looks really stressed out, so he wants to give him some exercise. Right before going on stage, Suwa explains that he initially thought that Sakura was stupid for wanting the top spot, but he realizes he was wrong. He thought Sakura's words were empty and meaningless, but now he knows Sakura actually has a spine. He then tells him that he thinks that he is pretty awesome and promises to do his best so he can keep up to Sakura. Sakura, unsure of what to say, simply tells Suwa to hurry up and get on stage. Nire then tries to find information about Kamuma in his book, but Sakura is more interested in learning about Suwa. He then explains that Suwa was famous for being strong in middle school, a fact Sakura could easily discern just by looking at him. But unfortunately, Nire doesn't have any more information. Hairaji then mentions that he's heard of Suwa quite a bit as well, but doesn't have any specific details. Yumemiya similarly lacks information but could tell from the start that Suwa is a kind gentleman. However, on stage it becomes evident that Kanuma is furious after seeing Arima knocked out. Kanuma reveals that he and Arima have always had each other's backs. However, Sue counters that Kanuma only complains when he's a victim, behaving like an impatient child. Sue's mockery prompts Kanuma to attack, but everyone is shocked when Sue easily dodges it. Continuing to mock him, Sue suggests they both should try to act like adults now. Kanuma decides to attack faster, but it only results in him being tossed to the ground. Despite his efforts, further attempts at landing an attack fail, and Kanuma grows increasingly frustrated as Sue continues to insult him. Sue keeps toying with Kanuma, surprising everyone as it appears that Sue's opponent is stumbling around on his own. The audience becomes annoyed with Kanuma and urges him to stop letting himself be toyed with. Kanuma, however, reflects on how they have no idea what it's like to have every attempt easily countered and wishes they could experience fighting Sue themselves. Yumemiya, on the other hand, realizes that Sue is no ordinary gentleman, and Sakura notes that he doesn't even have a shred of kindness, displaying ruthless behavior as he toys around with his inferior opponent. It is crystal clear that there is a huge gap in their skills. Sakura even states that he would want to end himself if he were in Kanuma's position, but he knows that he would never reach that point. Hiraji is surprised to see that Sue wanted to prove his point in this fight, and Yumemiya assumes it's because he was influenced by someone else. Nire realizes this as well, considering how Sue wanted to keep up with Sakura. Seeing Sue fight has caught Sakura's attention, and he wonders how he can get Sue to spar with him seriously. The fight continues, with Sue effortlessly dodging all of Kanuma's attacks, further showing everyone that he's toying with him. Sue then drops Kanuma once again, and the crowd turns against him. Kanuma is horrified to see Choji asleep during his fight, and Joe's lack of interest adds to his fears. Remembering what happened to the weakling under the bridge, Kanuma begins to panic. Sue notices Kanuma's panic and explains that he's finally figuring out what it takes to be an adult. Kanuma loses control and goes in for another attack, but Sue easily stops him. Shocked, Kanuma realizes that Sue knows what's going on in his head, assuming Kanuma is imagining becoming the person he mocked under the bridge. Sue calmly points out that imagination is essential to becoming an adult and tells him that he can finally move on to the next step. Continuing his lesson, Sue explains that Kanuma needs one more thing to make his imagination a reality. As Sue prepares to attack, Kanuma begs him to stop. Suddenly, Joe requests that the match be stopped, which confuses everyone. Joe then explains that he's humiliated them enough and states that Kanuma can't humiliate them anymore because he's no longer part of Shishotoren. This realization is Kanuma's worst nightmare, as his imagination has become reality. Sue then begins his final lesson, telling him that becoming an adult means being able to empathize, which requires imagination and experience. Sue is pleased for Kanuma, as he was able to learn something from the experience. The audience falls silent in disbelief at how thoroughly Kanuma was toyed with. None of the Shishotoren guys even recognize Suo, realizing he must be a first-year student. This revelation concerns them deeply, realizing that both Yumemiya and Suo are trouble. Suo, however, remains humble about his victory, but Niri wants to know whether he used kung fu or martial arts. Though he surprises him by admitting he doesn't even know his fighting technique, as his master just made it up. Niri diligently takes notes, and Suo apologizes for his behavior against Kanuma, stating that Sakura motivated him. Sakura doesn't care about Suo's apology and only wants to ensure Suo goes all out when they fight each other. Niri, however, is confused by Sakura's thirst to fight everyone, and Suo remarks that he wouldn't want to fight Sakura since he seems like a hassle to fight. They then argue, but Yumemiya is pleased to see everyone so lively. Despite this, Yumemiya can tell they will make a great team. Suddenly, they see Kanuma dragging Arima's body. Kanuma is still traumatized by what happened and tells Arima that it's all over. Shoji, on the other hand, wants to fight Suo, but Sakura declares that it's finally his turn. Unfortunately for him, Sako points at Hiraji, who apologizes to Sakura as he must go first. Sakura is furious and assumes that Hiraji doesn't think he can win, but he's shocked to find out that Hiraji trusts him. Flustered, he declares that he doesn't need Hiraji's trust, saying that he will win either way. Back to the fight, Hiraji doesn't usually speak much about himself, but he and Sako seem to know each other. Koji cheers Sako on, but Joe is surprised that Sako insisted on a one-on-one with someone, as it's very unlike him. Joe wonders if something happened between the two, as he can never tell what Sako is thinking. Choji, however, is more excited than anything, as it's not every day they get to see one of Bafurin's 4 kings fight against someone. Hiraji tries to catch up with Seko, but Seko remains silent, causing him to apologize, stating that he will win this fight. Choji demands they stop talking and just fight, and Seko showcases his insane speed, surprising everyone. He declares that he's tired of Hiraji looking down on him and asserts that his old self is gone. They then battle it out as Hiraji barely avoids a devastating kick. Choji cheers Sako on, while Niri is terrified at the pressure Seko is putting on Hiraji. Joe, however, is impressed by Sako's performance, explaining that Sako has been in more fights than anyone and joined Shishitorn, seemingly out of desperation. They are surprised by how much Sako is talking, as he usually only says yes or no, and sometimes one more word if they're lucky. Dodging Hiraji's attacks, Sako points out all his weaknesses, disappointed that Hiraji hasn't improved at all. Hiraji notes that Sako has become more talkative, mentioning their past, which infuriates Sako even more. He then launches another attack, shocking Hiraji with his increased speed, as he is disappointed to see that Hiraji not only hasn't improved but has even gotten weaker because he hangs out with a group of pushovers. This made Sekiro furious, not towards Sako, but towards Hiraji. He points out that they're getting mocked because of him, and that the only weak part about Hiraji should be his stomach. This prompted Nire to hold Sakura back, while Suo observes that Sakura is starting to care more about his friends than before. Umemiya then calms everyone down and tells Sako that Hiraji is one of their 4 kings, the leader of the Taman group. He confidently explains that Taman has another name, but Sako doesn't understand what he's yapping about. Suddenly, everyone is shocked by Hiraji as he stands back up and declares that he hasn't been kicked like that in a while. While Sako barely dodges his powerful punch, Hiraji acknowledges that Sako is a different person now. Umemiya then reveals that Taman is also known as Bishamonten, the god of war who controls the battlefield. But Hiraji is upset about being yelled at by a first year and quickly takes some medicine. The scene then shifts into the past, where some bullies once targeted Sako for his being smart. They beat him up regardless, but the young Hiraji intervened to defend him. But in the present, they're fighting more evenly. The Shishitoran guys, as well as the first years, are impressed by the spectacle of the one-on-one fight, as they had no idea Hiraji was this strong. Sakura, however, wishes that Hiraji had shown his strength from the start, but Suo believes he was also inspired by Sakura's words. Choji, on the other hand, is also surprised by Sako's fighting ability, but Joe can see that Hiraji has the upper hand. As the fight progresses, it becomes even more evident. However, Sako refuses to accept that Hiraji's current self is stronger than him, finding it nonsensical given Hiraji's comfortable life and friendly circle. Back in the past, Hiraji then helped Sako after beating up all the bullies, but Sako couldn't understand why Hiraji helped him. Hiraji then explained that he didn't like people picking on the weak. He then encourages Sako to fight back even a little to prevent further bullying. Sako, however, admired Hiraji's strength and begged him to teach him how to fight. He then explained that Hiraji was a person who never sought followers but naturally garnered everyone's respect. Sako looks up to Hiraji and wants to help him reach the top. But however, one day his world shattered when Hiraji told him to stop following him. Hiraji explained that he decided to follow someone named Umemiya, making it clear that if Sako stayed, he would just be disappointed by him. Devastated, Sako channeled his anger into fighting until he was found by Joe and Choji, who at that time was impressed by his strength. The only thing Sako asked was whether they had strong members, which they assured him they did. Joe then explained Shishitoran's philosophy, emphasizing their devotion to power, or the stronger individuals are recognized and ascend higher. However, Sako didn't care about his speech, focusing solely on his desire to fight strong opponents, as he was determined to become stronger to defeat Hiraji and prove him wrong. In the present, Sako refuses to lose, comparing himself with Hiraji, who had formed close bonds with others. Instead, Sako devoted himself to strength. He launches an attack, but Hiraji predicts his movements, further fueling Sako's anger as he confronts Hiraji's decision to follow under Umemiya. He asserts that he could never lose to someone who made such a choice. Hiraji then stops Sako's punch, apologizing for not meeting Sako's expectations before delivering a powerful blow to him. This made him emotional, as he realized that Hiraji's failure to meet his expectations wasn't the issue. Deep down, he didn't believe there was anything Hiraji needed to apologize for. But despite knowing that Hiraji was only looking out for him, Sako's pain stemmed from Hiraji telling him to stop following him. Sako didn't mind if Hiraji chose to support someone else. He simply wanted Hiraji to encourage him to keep following him. Then Hiraji's final punch brings an end to the battle, concluding the end of their conflict. As Sako collapses, another glimpse into the past reveals a time when he vowed to follow Hiraji forever, confident that Hiraji would ascend to the top spot. However, the Shishitoran guys are stunned by Sako's defeat, realizing that he lost to one of Bafuran's 4 kings. Meanwhile, the Bafuran members beam with pride for their comrade. Choji quickly expresses his desire to fight Hiraji, but Joe intervenes, instructing someone to remove Sako from the stage. But before anyone could do anything, Hiraji took matters into his own hands. Joe questions the need for such gentleness in handling Sako, but Hiraji stops him from grabbing Sako. Hiraji insists that he should wait until after his one-on-one to address Sako's situation, as even his own outcome remains uncertain. Joe's angered by Hiraji's approach, causing Hiraji to explain that their current methods won't lead to strength. The first-year Boffurin members then commend Hiraji for his performance, impressing Yumemiya, who specifically praises Hiraji's roundhouse kick. Hiraji expects Yumemiya to ask about his past, but he's surprised when Yumemiya didn't even ask and mentions that he's only willing to listen when Hiraji is ready to share. As Joe drifts into his memories, Choji brings him back to the present, reminding him it's his turn to fight. Sakura prepares himself amidst the cheers, declaring he's ready. Yumemiya then offers Sakura words of encouragement, while others express their support in their own ways. As Sakura reflects on the fight, seeing it as a conversation, he realizes the significance of his promise to the kid. Eager to finish the fight quickly, Sakura finds himself tackled by Joe right at the start. He narrowly avoids a devastating punch, causing the crowd's excitement to surge even more. Shaken by the sudden turn of events, Sakura regains his composure. Hiraji acknowledges Sakura's prowess in recent days but notes Joe's status in keeping the aggressive Shishitoran guys in check, hinting at his immense strength. Despite Sakura's observation about Joe's slow speed, Joe considers his pace moderate, intending to maintain it until Sakura catches up. As the battle continues, spectators marvel at Joe's remarkable speed. But Nire wonders whether Sakura can keep up, while Yumemiya emphasizes Joe and Choji's exceptional status among the Shishitoran guys. He assures Sakura can sense the gap between Joe's skill level and his own. But to their surprise, Sakura manages to land an attack, impressing Joe. However, he realizes he still has much ground to cover to match Joe's speed. As Sakura drops Joe, nearly crushes his skull, he recalls Sakura calling him lame in the tunnel, which greatly irritates him. However, Sakura manages to sweep Joe's leg, but Joe retaliates by smashing Sakura's face into the ground, much to the crowd's delight but Nire's horror. Disappointed to see Sakura knocked out so quickly, Joe taunts him, asserting his own superiority. He points out Sakura's brave act stems from being part of a strong group, but alone, Sakura lacks a voice. Infuriated, Sakura attempts to strike Joe, who calmly observes that Sakura is still talking. However, Sakura breaks free and continues attacking, determined not to lose to someone he despises. Taking the lead in the fight, Sakura's sudden change shocks the crowd into silence, even surprising Nire. He reminds Joe that losing to him would invalidate Joe's devotion to strength. His barrage of attacks is topped with a powerful kick to Joe's face, stunning everyone in the theater. However, Joe warns Sakura not to get cocky, delivering a devastating kick that sends Sakura flying. He explains the seriousness of their devotion to power, declaring the Shishitoran guys superior to superhero wannabes like Sakura's group. The crowd cheers as Joe stomps on Sakura's head, emphasizing the Shishitoran guys' dominance. The enemy is confident that Sakura won't be able to rise again, but Suo knows that the fight isn't over. Still conscious, Sakura condemns the Shishitoran guys' actions as mere bullying, refusing to lose to them. However, Joe has heard enough and stomps on Sakura's head once more. Unable to watch, Nire is shocked when the crowd falls silent upon seeing Joe missing his stomp on Sakura's head again. Confused by Sakura's words, Joe momentarily excuses himself from the fight to confront Kanuma and Arima about their actions. They confess to harassing the middle school kid and try to shift blame, but Joe isn't fooled. He mercilessly beats them, shocking everyone. Stripping their Shishitoran jackets from their defeated bodies, Choji instructs them to return to the fight. Joe apologizes to Sakura for the interruption and declares that it's time to continue. A glimpse into the past shows a younger Joe surrounded by Shishitoran guys at a festival. He defeats them all effortlessly, impressing Choji, who invites him to join the Shishitoran group. Over time, Joe and Choji become close, with Choji explaining the concept of devotion to power as an oath to remain true to oneself and to use power for freedom. Rumors spread about their strength, and they venture into rival territories alone, emerging victorious. Choji's aim was always to become the freest person possible. Joe explained to the others that they were taught that power is a path to freedom, with the strongest individual also being the freest. Choji, in particular, was determined to become the freest person, and he invited others to join him and Joe in their pursuit. With Choji, Joe felt a sense of belonging and freedom he hadn't experienced before. Although Joe didn't intend to compete with Choji, being around him allowed him to socialize more comfortably. He thought Choji would make a great leader for their group, but he soon realized his mistake. When Choji became the leader of Shishitoran, he seemed distressed, realizing that being the leader wasn't as enjoyable as he expected. Choji concluded that in order to get stronger, everyone in Shishitoran needed to reach his level of strength. Initially, Joe was supportive of this idea, assuming that Choji intended to train everyone. Their conversation was interrupted by members of their group arriving with a fellow member who had been beaten up by the Zinc boys. However, Joe was shocked when Choji attacked their beaten-up comrade instead of seeking revenge against the Zinc Boys. Choji explained that simply returning after defeat wouldn't make them stronger or freer, which was no fun for him. He soon declared that weak individuals weren't welcome in Shishitoran, seeking Joe's agreement, who was still taken aback. Despite his reservations, Joe couldn't deny Choji's authority as the leader and agreed to follow his decisions. Choji emphasized that as the strongest and freest, he will be the one who makes the choices. He then instructed Joe to leave if he couldn't understand, which Joe reluctantly accepted. However, Joe requested that Choji maintain his cheerful demeanor around everyone, while he does the dirty work. On that day, Joe resolved to stay in his own name, symbolizing his devotion to Choji, even if it meant blinding others with power to attain freedom. However, in the present, Sakura seems to have gained the upper hand in the fight, much to everyone's surprise. But he quickly notices Joe's lack of aggression and wonders about his intentions, echoing Joe's own uncertainty. Thank you for watching this 7th episode's recap of this anime, and if you enjoyed this video and want more of it, go ahead and hit that like button down below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's grow this community into a huge one and help us reach the goal of hitting 5,000 subscribers.